Before he was the voice of God, he was a radar tech in the US Air Force. Before Oscars and narration, he survived Jim Crow, rewrote Hollywood rules, and flew his own jet at 65. These aren't just facts, they're moments where Morgan Freeman made history. Want to know the 21 reasons why his life is a living timeline of change? Let's begin. Number 1. Enlists in the US Air Force, 1955. Before he became the voice of God, Morgan Freeman lived through war, civil rights, space exploration, and more. Not as a bystander, but as a man whose choices echoed across history. These aren't just facts about his life. These are moments where Morgan Freeman helped shape the story of America. Morgan Freeman was born on June 1, 1937, in Memphis, Tennessee, a city gripped by the entrenched racial divisions of Jim Crow America. The United States was still nearly 2 decades away from the Civil Rights Act, and for Black Americans in the Deep South, segregation wasn't just a policy, it was a daily, enforced reality. Freeman was the youngest of 5 children. His father, Morgan Porterfield Freeman Sr., was a barber, and his mother, Mamie Edna, worked as a cleaner. Their life was typical of many black families in the segregated South, economically modest, politically voiceless, and socially restricted. At the time of Freeman's birth, Memphis was governed by strict segregation laws that dictated where black residents could live, work, and attend school. Public transportation, bathrooms, hospitals, and even cemeteries were divided by race. Soon after Freeman's birth, the family relocated to Greenwood, Mississippi, another southern town steeped in racial tension. Greenwood had been a key site of cotton plantation labor in the post-slavery Reconstruction era and would later become a flashpoint in the civil rights movement. Freeman attended segregated schools where funding was scarce and opportunities were limited by law. Yet he excelled academically and showed an early interest in acting, a passion sparked not in fancy theaters but through community plays and school performances. In 1955, the same year Emmett Till was lynched in Mississippi, Freeman graduated high school and declined a drama scholarship from Jackson State University. Not out of fear, but ambition. He chose instead to enlist in the US Air Force, seeking a path out of racial constraints and into national service. It was a bold move for a young black man raised under the shadow of systemic exclusion. What makes Freeman's early years significant isn't simply that he survived an oppressive system, but that he later used his career to expose, interpret, and challenge it. His performances in films like Glory, Amistad, and Lean on Me were not accidental. They echoed the reality he had lived. Number 2. Civil rights movement and theater roots, 1960s. Freeman has never been shy about acknowledging this foundation. In interviews, he has often stated that growing up under Jim Crow shaped his sense of dignity, resilience, and purpose. "I was born with it in my blood," he once said, referring to the quiet determination passed down from his parents. A resolve not to be broken, no matter how powerful the system around him. Before the fame, the Oscars, or the iconic voice, Morgan Freeman was a child of segregation. One of millions who lived in a world where the color of your skin defined your worth. But unlike most, his journey from that world would one day help rewrite the narrative of what a black man could become in American history. Number 3. Military service and clarity, 1950s. In 1955, Morgan Freeman made a decision that diverged from the expected path of a young black man with creative talent. He turned down a drama scholarship to Jackson State University, a rare and prestigious offer, and instead chose the US military. His dream wasn't Hollywood, it was flight. Freeman enlisted in the United States Air Force, a newly independent branch of the military that had only recently integrated. President Truman's Executive Order 9981, issued in 1948, had legally desegregated the armed forces, but in practice, deep racial inequalities persisted. Freeman entered this evolving institution hoping to become a fighter pilot, one of the most elite roles in American aviation. But that path would soon challenge his ideals. Assigned as a radar technician, Freeman worked on tracking aircraft and maintaining advanced communication systems. A critical job, but far from the cockpit. He remained in this position for several years, and during that time, requested to be transferred into pilot training. Eventually, he got his chance to sit inside a fighter jet. The experience changed everything. As he later recounted in multiple interviews, the moment he sat in the pilot's seat, he realized he didn't actually want to kill. "I had this very clear epiphany," Freeman once said. "You are not in love with this. You are in love with the idea of this." The fantasy of the skies had masked the reality of war. He completed his service and left the Air Force after 4 years, never flying a mission, but gaining something far more important: clarity. Number 4. The Electric Company and Representation, 1971. By the late 1960s, Morgan Freeman had paid his dues in theatre, off-Broadway roles, and as an uncredited face in early films. But it wasn't until 1971 that his name, and his character, reached millions of American homes, not through primetime television or blockbuster cinema, but through public broadcasting. The show was The Electric Company, and Freeman's breakout role wasn't a Hollywood lead. It was a children's literacy advocate. Created by the Children's Television Workshop, the same producers behind Sesame Street, The Electric Company was designed to combat a growing national crisis: child illiteracy, especially in underserved communities. Freeman played multiple characters, but it was Easy Reader, a smooth-talking, book-loving hipster in sunglasses that captured the cultural moment. Easy Reader wasn't just cool. He loved books. And for millions of kids, particularly black children who rarely saw themselves reflected on educational television, he was the first positive, literacy-centered role model they had ever seen. Number 5. Oscar nomination for Street Smart, 1987. Freeman's breakout into film came with Street Smart, where he played Fast Black, a volatile pimp with depth and complexity. This role earned Freeman his first Academy Award nomination. It was groundbreaking. One of the first times a black actor had been nominated for playing a morally complex anti-hero. The performance broke new ground in how black male characters could be portrayed on screen, challenging decades of stereotyping. Number 6. Driving Miss Daisy and Race in Cinema, 1989. In 1989, Freeman starred in Driving Miss Daisy, a film that came out the same year as Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. The film provoked a national conversation about race, class, and representation. Freeman's portrayal of Hoke, a chauffeur who forms a deep bond with an elderly white woman in the segregated South, earned him another Academy Award nomination. His performance was layered, bringing dignity, humor, and nuance to a role that could have easily fallen into caricature. Number 7. The Shawshank Redemption and Global Recognition, 1994. Perhaps one of the most iconic films in cinema history, The Shawshank Redemption premiered in 1994. Though not initially a box office hit, it went on to become one of the most beloved movies of all time. Freeman's role as Red, and his unforgettable narration, became emblematic of hope, endurance, and quiet strength. The film's legacy owes much to Freeman's voice, which guided audiences through themes of friendship, institutionalization, and liberation. Across the globe, the film remains a symbol of resilience, with Freeman at its emotional core. Number 8. Wins Academy Award for Million Dollar Baby, 2005. By the time Morgan Freeman and Clint Eastwood collaborated on Invictus, their creative partnership had already produced some of the most emotionally charged and historically resonant films of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Their first major project together was Unforgiven, 1992, followed by Million Dollar Baby, 2004, where Freeman played Eddie Scrap Iron Dupree, a former boxer and the quiet caretaker of Eastwood's boxing gym. The film won the Academy Award for Best Picture, and Freeman himself won Best Supporting Actor, one of the few black actors to do so in a non-racialized, universal role. Number 9. Narrates March of the Penguins, 2005. In 2005, Freeman narrated March of the Penguins, a documentary chronicling the Antarctic mating rituals of emperor penguins. His calm, intimate voice gave emotional resonance to the stark visuals, turning what could have been a niche nature film into a global phenomenon that grossed over $125 million worldwide. Freeman's narration elevated science media and established him as the gold standard in voiceover storytelling. Number 10. Portrays Nelson Mandela in Invictus, 2008. In Invictus, Freeman portrayed Nelson Mandela, a role Mandela himself endorsed. The film dramatizes Mandela's use of the 1995 Rugby World Cup to unite post-apartheid South Africa. Freeman delivered the performance with restraint, capturing the burden of forgiveness and political grace. The performance connected global audiences to the idea that leadership could be visionary, moral, and inclusive. Number 11. Narrates Obama inauguration and related campaign films, 2009. Freeman's voice featured prominently in the cultural moments surrounding Barack Obama's historic 2008 election and 2009 inauguration. His narration in campaign documentaries like The Road We Traveled provided gravitas and emotional resonance. His presence symbolized a bridge between America's civil rights past and its future, linking real-world change with the aspirational tone of his voice. Number 12. Launches Through the Wormhole, 2010. In 2010, Freeman began hosting and producing Through the Wormhole, a philosophical science documentary series that tackled questions about time, consciousness, the universe, and humanity. With his deep voice and reverent tone, Freeman helped popularize complex scientific theories for mainstream audiences, blending curiosity with accessibility. The show ran for 8 seasons and was broadcast in over 100 countries. Number 13. Receives the National Medal of Arts, 2012. In 2012, President Barack Obama awarded Freeman the National Medal of Arts, one of the highest civilian honors in the United States. The award recognized Freeman's contributions to culture, particularly in portraying complex, nuanced black characters and helping to shape American identity through storytelling. Number 14. Mandela's Death and Freeman's Global Role in Commemoration, 2013. When Nelson Mandela passed away in 2013, Freeman's portrayal in Invictus became a focal point in global commemorations. Clips of his performance were replayed across the world. Freeman spoke at tributes and narrated multiple documentaries, solidifying his role not just as an actor, but as a cultural ambassador of Mandela's legacy and a voice of remembrance. Number 15. Private Jet Emergency Landing, 2015. In 2015, Morgan Freeman experienced an emergency landing when his private jet blew a tire during takeoff. Despite the danger, Freeman remained calm and unharmed. The event highlighted not only his accomplished aviation skills, but also his poise under pressure. Freeman had earned his private pilot's license at age 65, fulfilling a dream rooted in his youth. Number 16. Narrates exhibits at the Smithsonian African American History Museum, 2016. When the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture opened in 2016, Freeman's narration became a central part of its visitor experience. His voice guided millions through centuries of Black American history, from slavery to civil rights to modern struggles. His calm authority helped frame the emotional arc of one of the most significant cultural institutions in U.S. history. Number 17. The Story of Us, 2017. In 2017, Freeman hosted The Story of Us, a global documentary series exploring humanity through themes like freedom, peace, war, and love. Traveling across continents, he examined how societies build trust, navigate conflict, and create meaning. The series reinforced Freeman's role as a global storyteller, someone who could bridge science, culture, and human emotion. Number 18. Me Too, Allegation and Response, 2018. In 2018, Freeman was briefly accused of inappropriate behavior. The investigation closed without findings, but Freeman publicly affirmed the importance of safe and respectful working environments. Rather than becoming defensive or confrontational, he addressed the moment with maturity, emphasizing dignity and accountability, traits consistent with his public persona. Number 19. COVID-19 Public Service Announcements, 2020. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Freeman lent his voice to national and global public health campaigns promoting safety, unity, and vaccination. At a time of uncertainty, his steady narration offered reassurance and clarity, reinforcing the trust audiences had long placed in him. Number 20. Qatar World Cup Opening Ceremony, 2022. In 2022, Freeman appeared at the Qatar World Cup opening ceremony, delivering a message of peace, diversity, and global unity. Seen by billions, his words set the tone for one of the most watched events in television history, reflecting his status as a global cultural figure whose presence transcends borders. Number 21. Educational Philanthropy in Mississippi, ongoing. Freeman's Tallahatchie River Foundation has supported rural Mississippi communities for decades. Through scholarships, literacy programs, and school partnerships, he has quietly transformed educational opportunities in one of America's most underserved regions. His long-term commitment reflects his belief that real change begins at home, grounded in education, equity, and hope. These are not merely moments in one man's life. They are reflections of the age we live in, with Freeman as a constant, watching, narrating, reflecting, and sometimes leading. Morgan Freeman didn't just tell stories. He became part of the human story. Not by shouting, but by speaking with clarity, purpose, and truth.